All roads seem to lead to Putin with the president, though. Isn't it so? And I have concerns about all roads leading to Putin, which again, all roads lead to Putin. The list goes on and on. I also pointed out to the president I had concerns that the all roads seem to lead to Putin.
In fact, Nancy Pelosi believes that is the very point she was making when she stood up to the president prior to walking out in the now famous photo that, while it might have been tweeted out by our president, has certainly broken the other way in terms of public opinion. Just look at the men at that table and their unambiguous body language. But we digress. Back to Vladimir Putin, and specifically the question of what motivates him. Rachel Maddow explores that in her new book and makes a compelling case that the oil industry is a huge part of the answer. An industry, she notes, quote, is essentially a big casino that can produce both power and triumphant great gobs of cash, often with little regard for merit. That equation invites gangsterism, extortion, thuggery, and the sorts of folks who enjoy these hobbies. The book, as we mentioned, is Blowout, happens to be #1 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. The author is here with us. Talk about the business networks talk about ROI, like we're all walking around using those 3 letters. Return on investment. Talk about the initial Russian investment in screwing up our elections, how cheap it is, how vulnerable we remain right now tonight.
That was why I ended up writing this book. I had no native interest in the oil and gas industry. I was not setting out to write a book about a particular industry of any kind or any business, but I remained stuck, having spent so much time covering the Russian attack, really ended up stuck on why it made sense for them to do it, why the risk and reward balance made sense. And it was a very strange attack, right? It was a very sort of MacGyvered together thing. This guy who's an oligarch who has catering contracts and also runs mercenary armies in Syria for Putin, sets up a weird social media factory in St. Petersburg where a whole bunch of people get paid to pretend they're Americans. And then there's a military intelligence hacking effort targeting democratic institutions. And then they invent Guccifer 2.0 to send them out. And then they join up with... I mean, it was a really weird thing to do. It was also very, very cheap. It also was a very desperate thing for them to do. Had Hillary Clinton won, and all impressions that the Russians have given us is that they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win as much as most people in this country did. Hillary Clinton was already a hawk on Russia coming into this. If she had been elected president after Russia had taken this wild swing at her in her presidential election campaign, I mean, imagine what that would have meant in terms of the kind of power that an administration, a new U.S. president could direct Russia's way. But yet they still saw it as worth it. And I think the reason it was still worth it for them is because they were so desperate. And the reason they were so desperate is because their economy is such a disaster. And the specific way in which their economy is a disaster is about oil and gas. And it's worth it to them almost to try anything to get out from the U.S. sanctions that have precluded Western oil majors from helping them drill what they need to drill to keep their economy going.
I always say the economy of Texas is larger than the economy of Russia.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, Russia is 150 million people, gigantic country. Their economy is smaller than Texas, smaller than Italy, smaller than South Korea. They've got one industry, and that was a Putin decision because he really wanted to use oil and gas as a weapon. And so he didn't want it for a diversified economy. You'd need sort of a real country in order to have that. He preferred to let this be their one industry. He consolidated it all within its own power. And that's fine for a while, but eventually you run to the end of the economic road there, and that's where they are.
Devil's advocate, in a world addicted to dinosaur juice, oil and gas, how should oil companies be? Oil companies wake up every morning to fulfill our addiction to oil and gas. What should they be doing? How should they be behaving that they have not been?
The thing that is interesting to me in the big picture for this book is that I think we really underestimate oil and gas's geopolitical influence. Like, for example, magic wand, if you can imagine, the climate activists get everything they want. America and every other big economy on earth says, know what, we're turning off oil and gas. We're going to renewables. This industry is going to shrink magnificently. They're going to lose all their market share, lose a lot of their power. I think that we would see the boundaries of countries change. The oil and gas industry is propping up despotic governments and terrible governments all over the world. And it's because the way they operate, which is convenient for them, is non-transparent, often brings out the worst in democracy, and often is counter-democratic because it works for them. If U.S. regulations on oil majors that either operate here or are headquartered here forced them to be corporate citizens, they would be bribing fewer despots, propping up fewer terrible governments around the world, and they'd be everywhere they operate in the world. They'd be working in government environments that were answering more to their citizens and less to the industry. Those kinds of changes are within our grasp, and they're within our grasp if we change regulations here in the United States. It'll have a global impact.
But it's not like we're naming oil company CEOs to Secretary of State or anything.
No, definitely.
Something I heard you say in an interview recently, in effect, that you still have not gotten over that.
No, I mean, Rex Tillerson is an amazing character. But he did a $500 billion oil deal with Russia that was put on ice because of U.S. foreign policy. Putin gave him a medal. Putin elected the next U.S. president, arguably. And then, even though Donald Trump and Rex Tillerson had never met each other and didn't get along, all of a sudden Rex Tillerson ended up being the next guy in charge of U.S. policy. It's a really, really weird thing that we still don't actually have a great explanation for, even as good as I got to know Rex Tillerson over the course of writing this book.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you,
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Later than your normal shift.
It's all right.
Here is the book. It is called Blowout: Corrupted Democracy, Rogue State Russia, and the Richest, Most Destructive Industry on Earth. Nothing to see here, obviously. Its author's been kind enough to hang out with us tonight.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.